I've played a lot of survivors-like games, especially this year. We've had absolutely loads of them. But playing yet another survivors game that's themed around vampires, no less, this close to the end of the year and actually really liking it and it being shockingly good was definitely not on my bingo card. So just join me as we dive right into Night Swarm and why it's actually a really good game.
The Lord of all vampires has been gone for too long. The castle is silent. The land misses its ruler. We cannot let the house rot in his absence.
So Night Swarm is a survivors-like and it's themed all around vampires, and you know, at this point that's a bit of a snooze fest, or so you think. Now let me read you the Steam description for the game. Night Swarm is a vampire-themed roguelite RPG bullet heaven where you play as a fearsome young vampire lord rising to power. Gather loyal allies, unleash devastating abilities, and fight back against the relentless werewolf hordes that threaten to consume their night. It's all pretty standard stuff, right? It sounds so standard. And this game dropped in my inbox, and I was like intrigued. Okay, I play a lot of survivors likes on the channel, and yeah, the press release I got says the game's launching on December 4th. There's, no review embargo. It says the game is 25 hours long. And at first I was like, 25 hours? That seems awfully long for a kind of indie survivors-like game. And launch price around $8.50. Which, again, I was like, that's surprisingly low. But, I thought, yeah, it's probably another random survivors game. Until I started playing it, and right from the beginning, there's just a crazy amount of quality on offer here. And we're going to go through everything kind of section by section, but we'll just start with the initial experience. There's cutscenes, they're voice acted, there's music, there's just it gives you a very good feeling in the beginning. You're like, this is surprising. The game actually starts with story. You start as a sort of young vampire lord in a castle. There's NPCs in the castle. You go and talk to them, and they give you missions. But kind of like Hades, which is actually what a lot of sort of roguelite survivors games miss, is that kind of Hades aspect of like talking to NPCs in a kind of common area. They give you missions, as I said. You then go to areas. You basically progress out the castle door, and then you get to select where you go. Obviously you have to unlock areas as you play the game, and at first there's only a forest area available, but there's like 8 to 10 areas. I'm not sure exactly how many, but it's roughly that number, and each area has sub-levels. It's like, 1-1, 1-2, 1-3. As you kind of complete each sub-level, you choose a branch to go on. So you can like, okay, so if I go right, then there's a boss. If I go left, then there's this kind of area within the, say, forest. It's just such an interesting concept to begin with. But then when you add in that you're doing missions for NPCs, but they follow the storyline, like one guy's like, I'll help you, but I really need this. And it all kind of links back to this overall narrative. And the game's fully voice acted. Now, there's an asterisk there, which is the game does use some AI voice acting and artwork because the team is so small. However, it's good, it's complimentary. I'm not a huge fan of AI, but I'm not going to say we should punish Fabu games too much because they've used it to enhance what is there, not just completely wreck it. It's good. If it's a choice between what is there and no voice acting, I take the voice acting because you actually don't know. But there's that little asterisk. Your miles may vary depending on your opinion on it. But yeah, as you play, you go into each sort of map with a objective and a timer counting down. It's your typical survivors sort of stuff where you attack enemies, you get XP, you choose upgrades from random, cards you're given. You're like, okay, here's 3 upgrades, choose one when you level up. Different attacks, upgraded attacks, and so on. And then you obviously have like 3 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever, to complete the actual task you're there for. You wander around the map, you're attacked by all kinds of enemies, werewolf type people. You stand on resource nodes to, get resources, unlock things. It's your standard survivor's fare. What's really interesting is that the characters all have like a it's like a tabletop game where they have an attachment on their feet, like a base. So they kind of waddle like someone's moving them, like moving a figure across a tabletop. And it's little things like this that give Night Swarm such charm that I just was not expecting. It does not come across on the Steam page. There's no reviews of this game. It's actually quite shocking how good and how kind of personality driven this actually is. So yeah, that's the general loop of the game. Is you complete map. You basically do a run through whatever map. You then go back to the castle. You get rewards for doing the quest. There's also further the narrative, and I'm not going to go too much into it for spoilers. But there's upgrades. There's like passive upgrades. You can craft things. It's very much like Hades meets V Rising. That kind of thing. Like, it's not open world like V Rising, but it has that vibe. So it's really surprised me. Another unique aspect to Night Swarm is that you actually get an ally companion, which you get to choose from. So at certain points throughout your run, you'll basically unlock a companion, and each companion is like a computer-controlled person who follows you around and attacks to help you out. They all have different stats and different buffs and things like that, and you basically choose your favorite and do that. And they can also be upgraded as time goes on. And it's just like, this overall theme of the game is like, there's so many upgrades to do, and there's so many, both in the game and when you go back to the castle. And then there's, this actual narrative to follow. There's huge bosses to take down. In a lot of ways, like, it follows the same structure as a kind of, roguelite, bullet heaven survivors-like game where, and especially because it is themed around vampires. I mean, it's just, we can't help but look at Vampire Survivors, which took the genre by storm and for a very low price of like $4. But really, if you push that aside, there's so much cool stuff that this game does. And I'm just really pleasantly surprised, and I hope more people give this game a go, especially because it is under $10. And if you are a fan of Survivors games and you're not burnt out on vampires, this is actually pretty damn good. We give Night Swarm 8 out of 10. Night Swarm is a shockingly good Survivors-like game that manages to bring a fresh perspective and take on personality to the genre, even though it is based around vampires. The reason it doesn't score higher is because, well, then again, it is about vampires, and, we are getting a bit sick of that at this point. However, Night Swarm is a game that's well worth playing, and if you are thinking whether you should buy this now, wait for a sale, or just skip it entirely, I would say Night Swarm is worth buying right now. It's under $10, and if you're, looking to scratch that sort of Vampire Survivors itch and you're not burnt out on vampires, this is one of the best Survivors-like games to release in 2025.